Welcome back to the Mountain Man Medical YouTube channel. Thanks for hanging out. In today's video, we're going to take a look at Stop the Bleed Month. We're going to talk about some tips and tricks, things that you can use when you're out there taking care of somebody. Stopping the bleed is not difficult. This is a national month for awareness on how to treat traumatic bleeding. This is an easy thing, guys. Anybody can learn how to save a life. Let's talk about that next. All right, guys, so we're going to talk a little bit about how to stop a bleed. Stopping the bleed is not a very difficult thing, and it is what will kill you the quickest. A person can bleed out from a femoral artery in under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So we want to make sure that we are hopping on that bleeding and taking care of it as quickly as possible. We don't have a lot of time. All right, before we get started on this video, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit the like and subscribe button. That's a free way to support me here at the channel. If you need any trauma kits, why don't you head over to mountainmanmedical.com, check out our Yellowstone and Wind River trauma kits, and be ready for whatever the mountain throws at you. Now let's get into this video. All right, so May is Stop the Bleed Month, and here at Mountain Man Medical, we think that's a pretty good idea. This is an effort on behalf of our lovely government to extend the awareness of how to take care of traumatic bleeding. And taking care of bleeding isn't that difficult. It helps a lot if you have some gear with you or available, but we'll talk about what to do if you don't have any of that gear either. Having trauma gear with you is one of those things that's going to make your life much easier, but you don't need it to save somebody's life. It helps a lot, but you can do without it in some very key circumstances. I would always recommend having a trauma kit because that's going to be the most beneficial. But what do you do if you don't have a trauma kit? You can't take one with you everywhere that you go, and you might need to save a life without your gear. So what do? To control bleeding, the most important thing that you can learn is direct pressure. Use the heel of your hand and put your body weight directly over top of that wound. That way you can get maximum occlusion of that artery that's bleeding very badly. So you're just going to put all of your weight right on top of that bleeding, and that's going to hopefully control that bleeding a little bit better. A lot of people's lives have been saved with only direct pressure. This is a great skill to know because even if you are carrying trauma gear, you might run out. And of course, like we already said, you might not have it available to you in the first place. So being able to control that bleeding with direct pressure is going to be the most beneficial thing for you. Now, I always recommend that you have a hemostatic gauze on you, like Gauze or Quick Clot. But if you don't have that, you can still make do with an improvised wound packing. If you can tear or cut a couple of strips out of the casualty's t-shirt, you can use that like gauze and pack that down into the wound. You want to get it as tight down onto that artery as you possibly can and fill up the entire cavity of that wound with as much of that gauze as you can possibly get in there. Tourniquets are important, but you also need to learn wound packing. It's very important if you take a wound anywhere else on your body besides your limbs. Now let's talk a little bit about some important gear that will make your life easier. Having a trauma kit nearby, especially in your vehicle. We're never very far from our vehicles, so having a trauma kit in your vehicle is one of those great places. On top of that, you might come across a car accident, and a lot of times they'll have nurses and EMTs that will stop to help, but they won't have their own gear nearby. So having your own that you can pass off to them, and also having the skills to be able to use the gear in here if there is no other provider there but you. Those are all important things. So trauma kit is important. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you're going to need for bleeding control. First and foremost, of course, we're going to talk about the tourniquet. This is a cat tourniquet from North American Rescue. It's a very good tourniquet. I've used it before and it works really well. This is one of the best ones to be able to apply to yourself, and we'll talk a little bit about how you're going to do that. So we're just going to open it up and apply it to our arm. We're going to take this red tab and we're going to be facing it across our body depending on which side that we put it on. So we put it on the left arm here, this tab is going to be facing to the right, and then vice versa, right? So we're going to loop it up and around. We're going to take that red tip technology and we're going to ratchet it down. And we want this tourniquet to be in a place where we can get to the windlass nice and easy. Don't put this, tighten it down with that windlass on the back of your tricep. It's going to be really difficult for you to get to it, and it's not going to work for you very well. So we want to pull this around nice where we can get to that windlass, we're going to go high and tight, and we're going to take all of the slack out of this tourniquet. That's going to be a key and important part of this and getting it nice and tight. We're going to take that strap and roll it all the way around so that the Velcro adheres to itself. Then we're going to take the windlass and then we're going to put some turns in it. How many turns? Until the bleeding stops. If you have the slack taken out of the strap as much as possible, then it should only take about maybe 1.5, 2 turns at the most to get this nice and tight. It won't take too much. Put another turn in it. And then once we think that we've got this secure enough, we're going to take the remainder of the tail, wedge it through. Now, some people like to come up underneath of the windlass to kind of help keep it in place a little bit more. That could be something that you do. And then we take the windlass retaining strap and we get it parked over just like that. And now we have our tourniquet applied. We check for a pulse. No pulse. We're good to go. The next thing that you're going to want to have is going to be some sort of hemostatic agent. So this is wound packing material. Now, tourniquets are great. They're fantastic. You should always have one nearby, but they only work on your arms and legs. If you take a wound anywhere else in your junction, where your neck meets your torso, in your armpit, in your groin, then you're going to need to know how to do wound packing. This is an important skill. So having a hemostatic agent on you, like Quick Clot, and we also have some Untitled Gauze. These are both excellent products for helping the blood to clot more quickly. So this is an important skill, and these are important products to have in your trauma kit. If you need a way to carry them, we sell these excellent ankle IFAC kits. We get a lot of reviews on these saying that they're very comfortable and a great way of carrying around an entire trauma kit on you and incognito, so that you've got something that you can help somebody out in a bad situation always on you. We got some trauma shears. We've got a couple of tourniquet options that you can put in here, and also some pressure dressings. So pressure dressings are important for keeping that wound packing material in place and applying direct pressure to that bleeding artery. That's what's going to get the majority of our bleeding control. So we want to have something that's going to keep that in place. If we're using a hemostatic agent like Quick Clot or Untitled Gauze, then the standard rule of thumb is 3 to 5 minutes for direct pressure. Without a hemostatic agent, the procedure is about 10 minutes. So we want to make sure that we're holding direct pressure on that, and a pressure dressing is a great way to do that. This is just an elastic bandage. It wraps around nice and tight and compresses the wound packing material into that bleeding artery to control the bleeding. So without this, you need to sit there and hold that direct pressure for a long period of time. So this kind of frees you up to go and take care of other wounds, take care of other casualties, and just gives you more options. So bleeding control, we're going to want our wound packing material, hopefully with a hemostatic agent impregnated into it, and a pressure dressing to keep it all in place. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for hanging out and checking out this video on Stop the Bleed Month. It's here in May. This is the National Awareness Month, so that everybody can kind of get trained up and learn on how to stop bleeding. It's very simple and very easy. If you need to know more, head over to mountainmanmedical.com. We have our emergency trauma response course. This is a completely free and online, only takes about an hour and 40 minutes or so. And it will teach you all of the basics, everything that we just covered in this video, and then lots of other things as well. It's a well-rounded course. We also have a Stop the Bleed link on our website, so that if you want to go and take their course, you are definitely welcome to do that. I highly recommend it. Everybody needs more training as quick as possible. But if you need a little extra, check out the Emergency Trauma Response course. That'll get a little more in depth. I appreciate everybody sticking it out and checking out this video. Don't forget to hit a like and subscribe. That's a free way to support me here at the channel. Head over to mountainmanmedical.com. Check out our Yellowstone and Wind River trauma kits and the ankle trauma kit if you want to keep some gear on you at all times. I'll catch you guys in the next one.